Hey everyone, welcome to the Leadership Adventure podcast and YouTube channel. I'm Marv McCarthy, your host, and I wanted to thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. And as a reminder, we publish 2 episodes per week, one on Tuesdays and one on Thursdays. Tuesday is the blog, which is designed for all leaders, and Thursday is the Devo, which is designed for leaders of faith. So today is Thursday, January 18th, which means it is time for this week's Devo. Today's episode is called the 50-20 Principle. Let's jump right in and find out what that's all about. The book of Genesis contains 50 chapters, and of those chapters, 13 are devoted to the story of one man, Joseph. So I've always wondered, why in the world would God instruct Moses to devote 26% of the entire book of beginnings to record that much detail about Joseph's life? It's like, what's the big deal anyway? Well, the answer to that question and the big deal is known as the 50-20 principle. This principle gets its name because it is actually a chapter and a verse reference. So it's chapter 50, verse 20. Now here's how it reads from the English Standard Version, or the ESV. I'm also going to include verses 19 and 21 for context. All right, starting with verse 19. Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So do not fear, I will provide for you and your little ones. Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. Man, and think about this. After at least 20 years of betrayal, jealousy, false accusations, hardship, and prison, which all started when his brothers threw him in the pit and decided to sell him into slavery, Joseph not only forgives them and treats them kindly, but he also, throughout all that, recognizes that God was accomplishing his divine plan all along. Now, jump back to verse 20 and the phrase, you meant evil against me. The underlying picture here is one of a tapestry being woven. So Joseph's brothers were trying to weave evil for him, but at the exact same time, God meant it for good. In other words, God was taking the brothers' plots, schemes, and threads, and at the very same time, he was reweaving them into something that would accomplish his purpose, not only for Joseph's life, but as we discover later in Scripture, for the entire nation of Israel and for the lineage of Christ himself. And that, my friends, is the big deal. Joseph's story, and I think perhaps better than no other, encompasses the entire range of family dynamics, human experience, human emotions, and with all that stuff wrapped in there, God's providence is also in the mix from start to finish. So in my opinion, that is why God allocated so much space for it. The lessons of Joseph's life are really the lessons of every single one of our lives as well. Now, because of this importance, I'd encourage you not to think of the 50-20 principle as just another Bible verse. It goes way past that. I can say personally that I've heard that verse, probably hundreds of times throughout my life, but it never has sunk in. The reality of it has never sunk in until recently. So in actuality, it's not just a set of verses. It's a critical lesson that God wanted to teach us about his character, his love for us, and his partnership with us in accomplishing his designs. So when things, quote, hit the fan, as they inevitably do for all of us at some point, take a moment to reread these verses and remember God's faithfulness in Joseph's life. And guess what? God is faithful in our lives too. If you've ever seen a tapestry, the front is nice and the back looks horrible. So the backside of our tapestries are filled with knots, stray threads, ugly patterns, and seemingly senseless connections. But the finished product on the other side reveals the perfect image of God's purpose for us. Pastor and author Max Lucado has a really great book on Joseph's life called You'll Get Through This. I'll put a link below, so if you'd like to, you can check it out for your own use. We just finished up this book in study form for my men's discipleship group a couple of months ago, and everybody really enjoyed it. And Max sums it up like this: you'll get through this. It won't be painless. It won't be quick. But God will use this mess for good. In the meantime, don't be foolish or naive, but don't despair either. With God's help, you will get through this. And you know what, guys? I can't think of better advice than that. As always, thank you for listening, and see you next week.